Hello everyone, and welcome to It Girl in Review. Today we will be discussing one episode of a series called MindHunter. Now, I found MindHunter from TikTok because you get I was scrolling through, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, this seems like a show. And all the comments are, oh my gosh, it was the best show ever. It was canceled too soon. And it was one of those Netflix canceled shows. And I was like, okay, this canceled. Well, they need to bring it back. And I've heard everyone was raving about it in the comments, this Mindhunter show. So I was like, okay, let me go on Netflix and watch it. So I think I was expecting this usual format of okay, I knew it was a criminal type of, true crime show. I kind of had the idea of that from the little trailer thing, but I did not know that it would not follow the usual format of having a great protagonist who you're rooting for and who you believe can solve the crimes. So before I get into that, let's go over the cast. So I'm going to be talking about episode 8 of season 1 in Mindhunter. And on this episode, the Behavioral Science Unit, BSU, continues to expand its team while delving into complex psychological investigations. This is another run-on episode. The main cast is Jonathan Groff. He's Special Agent Holden Ford, Holt McCallany as Special Agent Bill Tinch, Anna Torv as Dr. Wendy Carr, love her, Hannah Gross as Debbie Mitford, and Carter Smith as Unit Chief Shepard. This is the main cast. So in every episode, these people are always in every episode. Now, the guest cast that we'll be talking about today on episode 8 would be Mark Kudish as Principal Roger Wade, Susan Hevner as Janet Ebner, Joe Tuttle as Special Agent Greg Smith, who was just recently hired in that episode, and Happy Anderson as Jerry Brudos. So here is the episode synopsis. The episode opens with Agents Ford and Tinch alongside Dr. Carr interviewing candidates to join the BSU. Unit Chief Shepard recommends Special Agent Greg Smith, who was subsequently hired, through not without some reservations from the team. So in that episode, it was between Smith and this is based in the 70s. So you guys have to remember, this is based in the 70s and 80s, this show. So Special Agent Greg Smith was hired, but his competition to be hired was this black man. I forgot his name. Oh my gosh, he was basically qualified. Not the main character, but the side character, Special Agent Bill Tinch. He really liked him and they got along well. And I was like, okay, but of course they didn't hire him because he was black. That's kind of what, with the higher-ups, that's kind of what the vibe was of that episode. So he wasn't hired because he was black, okay. Even though everyone kind of got along with him, but Greg Smith was very much a stereotypical of what would go for the status quo of Special Agent Holden Ford. And so with that, Greg Smith was hired, and you'll find out that he's not really great at the job, Greg Smith, or with the team. But anyways, if we continue on, meanwhile, Agent Ford is invited to speak at a local elementary school. After his presentation, teacher Janet Ebner expresses concerns about Principal Roger Wade's behavior, specifically his practice of tickling students' feet and giving them nickels as a form of discipline. Ford is initially hesitant but becomes intrigued by the potential psychological implications. So if you've watched this episode or if you've watched the show, you can kind of see the arrogance happening within Agent Ford. He's the main character. You think he's the protagonist? No, he feels like he's the antagonist at some point. It's insane. I guess it's realistic because in the 70s and 80s were these special agents, the FBI, because that's what they're working for, the FBI. Are they actually good people? Were they actually good people, the FBI? No, we know historically they weren't good people. We know the CIA didn't really hire the greatest of fair people. I'm not saying good, but fair, The situation escalates when Ford's superiors learn of his extracurricular investigation. Unit Chief Shepard reprimands him, emphasizing the importance of focusing on their sanctioned work. Despite this, Ford's persistence leads to the school superintendent deciding to terminate Principal Wade's employment to prevent potential future misconduct. Parallel to the main plot, Ford's personal life faces challenges. He becomes increasingly suspicious of his girlfriend Debbie's relationship with a classmate named Patrick. Tensions rise when Ford attends a party that Debbie actually invited him to and observes Debbie in a compromising situation with Patrick, leading to a confrontation and further strain on their relationship. Her and Special Agent Holden are about the same age, so she's in the graduate program and getting her master's. And so she invited him, come to this sociology exhibition. He goes, it's all dark in there, there's people all around. And then he's like, okay, she's not here, so he's about to leave, Special Agent Holden. And then someone opens the door or turns the lights on really quick or something like that. And then he looks back and he sees Debbie, his girlfriend, and Patrick, the side dude, leaned on the desk, really close to each other. His hand is around her neck, and then Holden sees it, basically leaves and runs out of that place, which I would have beat the guy up, honestly, about him. But back to it. The episode concludes with the team conducting another interview with serial killer Jerry Brudos. This session provides deeper insights into Brudos' psyche, particularly his shoe fetish and its connection to his criminal behavior. These findings contribute to the BSU's ongoing efforts to understand and profile serial offenders. If you guys saw that episode and you saw Brudos with those shoes, you know what happens. Essentially, to be a bit PG, and it was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot of masturbation, I will say, with those shoes in front of everyone in the cell. So much happened in episode 8. They got Greg Smith, the new agent. Oh, they hired Debbie, cheated on Special Agent Ford, Brudos masturbating to the heels, because they weren't just shoes, they were heels. Insane. And also the tickling. Ran over to 2 other episodes, I think, the tickling situation with that principal. This is the 70s and 80s. We have to remember this is in the 70s and the 80s. So pedophilia, all that stuff, there was no rule book for some reason. So people of authority were able to take advantage of children, is what I believe was happening, which most people believe was happening because there was no rule book. Essentially, when he finds out from the teacher what the principal's doing, is like, when I found out, when she said it, I was like, what? He's tickling these kids. So basically the kids will like be bad. They would get sent to the principal's office. He would tickle their feet, and then he would give them a nickel as payment for their discipline or something like that. It was so strange. And it wasn't just the feet tickling, it was the added on payment of that. You know, you were bad, here, I'm gonna tickle you, discipline, and then I'm gonna give you a nickel. The teacher tried to explain the psychology of it, but it just didn't work, honestly. So when he goes to confront that teacher, it's just shocking because the teacher is very brushing it off. He's like, oh, it's not illegal, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not doing anything illegal. Even though they've talked to some of the teachers, a few of the teachers didn't mind because they were like, oh, whatever, but they were just weirdos to me as well. But some of the teachers, some of the other faculty, some people on the school board, and some of the those parents did not like it at all. They wanted it to stop because they thought it was freaking weird. But again, because since it wasn't illegal, there was nothing the FBI could really do outside of a recommendation. So Special Agent Ford couldn't really do much because it wasn't illegal for a man without permission, without consent from parents or the child, well, maybe the child. And these are like kids. So you're telling me the parents are saying they don't like it. They've complained. Everyone's complained. But the police can't do anything because it's not illegal for a grown man to be tickling, in a position of authority, to be tickling kids' feet and paying them with a nickel. And there was multiple kids. Of course, kids are kids. They're like 9 years old. They're not seeing an issue with it. So they're all like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a bit naughty today so I can get a nickel. So I can go to the store and get some candy. Because again, 70s and 80s, you can get so much with a nickel. And so it was so strange. It was so strange. Everyone's reaction to Special Agent Ford acting like he was overstepping. So Special Agent Ford tried to like get advice from superiors and like, oh, it's not that serious. He's not doing anything. That's not illegal. He's not doing anything illegal. He tried to talk to his coworkers. Oh, what? Like, okay, that's a bit strange, but like, you know, he's not doing anything wrong. And then he tried to give an example because the coworker has a son, and he said, well, what if someone did that to your son? Like his principal would start tickling his feet and pay them with a nickel. Like, what would you think about that if you, like, didn't care before? He's like, oh, don't bring my son up to the... It was so strange. Everyone's reaction to him wanting to stop this principal for non-consensual touching of kids' feet. Again, I don't understand the psychology. The principals tried to explain it away so many times. He brushed it off. And since it was the 70s and 80s, it was just not seen as that serious because sexual assault and pedophilia was never taken seriously up until maybe recently. And barely that even. This episode bothered me so much because it ran over into like other episodes. We just found out the outcome. Oh, the teacher got fired, and then find out his wife is now mad and she did a drop by at Special Ford's apartment while Debbie was there trying to make up with him. And so the wife comes in saying, do you enjoy ruining people's homes, ruining people's houses? And it was like, okay, I get it. You think your husband's innocent, but he's fired now. He can't get a job anywhere, can't get a teaching job anywhere, can't even get a counseling job anywhere because his name has been ruined. Essentially for, again, tickling children's feet and paying them with a nickel. But again, the wife, he's married to him, so she probably doesn't see anything. At that time, a lot of women did go along with pedophilia if they're married to the pedophile. To be honest, it was a common theme. It's still a common theme to this day. A time where in America, women couldn't even get their own credit cards, couldn't get a home on their own name, couldn't get an apartment on their own name without getting their dad or a man in their family's cosign. Like, it was a hard time. So it's added on to that nuance of like the struggles and perils of being a woman at the time, but still not standing up for children. I definitely recommend to start watching Mindhunter. Those comments on TikTok, they lied. Oh my gosh, because I was like, oh, this is going to be a great show. I'm sure it's going to be every other criminal show, every other true crime show where they're the detective or the special agent, they're the good guys. They're going to make us feel like they're going to solve all the crime. No, this guy makes me feel like I'm crazy. Special Agent Ford is the main character. He makes me feel like I'm crazy because he is such a horrible. At first, you're like, okay, maybe, and then he just becomes more and more arrogant to where you just don't feel empathy for this person, and you feel like he is overstepping. You feel like he is rude to everyone else. You feel like he does have a huge ego, and is on an ego trip. It's just insane. It was so shocking because this is the one episode where you're like, wait, he is kind of right, because why is this grown man behind man tickling these kids' feet? But again, because let's say everyone else felt like it wasn't that big of a deal because the story of the times, it was just like he was the lone wolf trying to save the children of that school. Fast forward when the principal's wife, she goes and finds Special Agent Ford's apartment, and she confronts him by the elevator, and he's just like, oh, tries to explain it away, She's like, oh, what? She tries to go on this whole rant because she's so upset. You got him fired. He's like, well, I didn't do anything. Like, I didn't tell them to fire him, which he didn't. He, listened to superintendent and was like, I can't really give a recommendation of what should happen because that's not my position. Which again, I'm like, oh gosh, okay, FBI is never helpful, especially at that time. And so the superintendent was like, okay, well, we think that he should be let go and relieved of his duties. And Special Agent Ford was like, okay, I agree. That's kind of what he said. Like, I can't tell you yes or no, but like that, to me, that sounds okay. That's kind of what he gave. And when the wife was there by his elevator confronting him, there was a distance because it was so strange. I think this show does a good job with stressors, with making you very uncomfortable and stressed, because when that wife came out of the elevator, his receptionist said, oh, like, a woman such and such is here to see you. And so he says, oh, yeah, let her up, because he realized, oh, it was the wife. And he was like, what the heck? She comes out of the elevator. His door is a bit far from the elevator, so he's a bit in the dark. And she stays at the elevator. And they're just talking to each other across the room. And it's just so uncomfortable because the lighting and everything. It's just like you could feel the suspense. They know how to build suspense. Wow. It was so suspenseful because you're like, is she going to shoot him? Because it's like you're coming to an FBI agent's home. Are you going to shoot him? And like just talking back and forth. And so Debbie, his girlfriend who's like trying to make up to him, she is in there in his apartment. She comes out. She says what's going on for a few minutes. And she asked her, like, hey, do you want to come in for a moment for a cup of tea or something? And the wife turns to her. She's like, oh, you're a bit young. And she was like, yeah, but we're about the same age. She's like, oh, well, you shouldn't be married to him. Like, be careful who you marry. She said something like that. Be careful, like, you never know who he is when you get married. But it was just so interesting. He is a butthole to Debbie. I will agree with that. He's not the nicest to Debbie. Like, he's just not the nicest to his girlfriend. He's not polite. He wants her, basically, he keeps telling her to be quiet. Or, like, she's in graduate school, so she's getting her master's. You just want me to sit here and be quiet and just listen to you? He's like, yeah, kind of, that's what I want. That's what she said one time. That's what they talked about one time. And she was just like, ugh, and she walked away. And it was just like that thing where you're wondering why isn't she leaving him? Like, why doesn't she just, like, leave? It was the 70s and 80s. That was typical for a man, especially a man with a degree, a man of power, a man with a great career and job and knows what he loves, what he does. That was very common. Yes, they were very arrogant, things like that, but a lot of men, no matter if you dated a cashier or not, a lot of men were extremely, now they're a bit more chill, kind of, But like, a lot of men were outwardly misogynistic, and the patriarchy was huge and very strong in everyday life. So therefore, that was the norm. So if Debbie living left him, whoever she dated or wherever she went in life, she would still feel that kind of pressure of being quiet and just being told, this sitting there, look pretty and listen and cook. Because that's just the sign of the times. That's just what women were expected to do. You were an extension of a man and his hobbies and his career. That's pretty much it. And she didn't really want to be that, Debbie. Which is like, that moment at least. Just kudos to her, because he was talking to her career. He was being so rude to that lady. Wow. But yes, the tickling episode, I just wanted to talk about that. I know I went on rants and other things. This is season 1, episode 8 of Mindhunter on Netflix. Definitely watch it. There's only 2 seasons though, so they can't cancel out for 2 seasons. I haven't seen all of the second season, but I'm hoping he becomes a better person. Special Agent 4, the main character, is still an arrogant, egotistical man. Oh my God, it's like unbearable. Like, you're watching him and you just want him to get fired. You want him to suffer consequences, because he's just so, you just feel it. And it's just like, wow, this is really what a lot of men are and were who were in the FBI and other higher fields in their career. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, listening, and watching to this episode of It Girl in Review, where I talked about Mindhunter. So I'll see you guys next Friday. Please tune in, watch, follow, subscribe, comment, and rate me if you can, depending on where you're listening to me or watching me from. All right? Thank y'all so much, and have an amazing, amazing, amazing day. Better than me, hopefully. All good. Bye.